Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And a jolly good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And it's a lovely morning, actually. And we have with us in our studios this morning Mr. Lasanta Wickramasinghe, who's the Secretary of the Association of Professional IT Associations. Very good morning to you, Mr. Wickramasinghe.
Good morning, Faraz.
Good morning to you. And your association has got activated because of what? Is it because there's this proposal to permit the entry of foreigners in the IT industry to work in Sri Lanka? Is that bothering you?
Of course, because so if you consider IT industry, so Sri Lanka IT industry is growing because it has a competitive advantage. So one need to identify what is the competitive advantage of IT industry, because Sri Lanka doesn't have that much of industries which are currently growing.
Right.
So if you have a sector which is with a competitive advantage, and if the sector is growing globally, so you have to be very carefully study the sector and try to understand all the factors about that, and you have to handle that very carefully, because entire future can depend on some sectors which are growing, so you don't know where it ends up.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the IT sector is one of the few sectors in our country that's actually growing.
Yes, if you consider its revenue in 2007, it was $1,200,000.
Okay.
In 2014, it was around $850 million, and in 2007 the workforce was 33,000, and in 33,000, and now it is about 90,000 people, and most of them are graduates.
Right.
Okay, so you can see the development in the industry. So one need to identify why it is developing. What is the reason? The reason is investment. So people are investing in the sector in Sri Lanka, both local entrepreneurs and foreign direct investments. So why they are investing in Sri Lanka? So what they have said, why they have come to Sri Lanka, having a global giant next to us, India, so with huge workforce, but still they select Sri Lanka for some reason. And what they say is,
and what is that? What is our plus point?
That is, according to the investors, this is top tier talent and the low cost operation. That is why they have invested in Sri Lanka. And if you consider these two, top tier talent and low cost operation, and you know in the IT industry the cost is also with how much you have to pay for the people, because you don't have heavy machineries in the sector. So it has been nicely balanced, so that we have top tier talent. That is also because of the salary levels, because the talented people enter into the industry because of a good salary level, and that the salary level is in a nice equilibrium, so that it provides a low cost operations to the investor while it's provided a satisfactory salary level to the employee. So you can see how nicely this has been balanced. So this is a balanced system, so that's why it's growing. So once you destroy this balance, so this will be loose. So if you open the gates like this, so if you allow people to come to Sri Lanka, so what will happen is the salary levels will decrease. So then the encouragement today is there with the youth to enter into this sector will be decreased. So the talented people won't come to the industry once the salary level dropped. So they will try to find some other jobs. So then, in the investors' point of view, they would have very good reasons to shift their investment to India. So if you drop our talent level,
So this talent pool that we have, do we know how much of this IT talent from Sri Lanka is exported at the moment?
You mean in the number of people?
Number of people.
I don't have exact numbers, but I think about 10% or something like that migrating. So that has been another issue. That's
migrating on a temporary basis, or
basically on the regular basis. So I mean,
long term.
Long term, and they get their families.
So that means there's a sort of a brain drain from Sri Lanka.
Yes, that's true. That's why we are proposing to negotiate trade agreements or whatever with developed countries. So if you can do that, so the positive side is the people can go there and work there for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years and then come back to Sri Lanka. So that will reduce that brain drain because they are coming back to Sri Lanka. But now what happens is they migrate with their families, then the entire generation becomes we lose them.
Yes.
So that's the issue. But instead of that, what the government and the policymakers and the so-called economists are trying is open our gates to India and China. So this is not what should happen, and this is very negative thinking.
Indeed.
So we are always thinking how to provide jobs in Sri Lanka to the foreigners. That's not the way we should think.
Yeah.
If we are neoliberalist, what we should think in terms of our country. So we should think how to earn foreign exchange by sending our talented or skilled workers to the developed countries to earn money from.
Rather than at the moment it's primarily unskilled workers.
Yes, so because we are sending our mothers of the nation to Middle East. Actually, if you consider our balance of payment account, so we have around $9 billion US dollar deficit, trade deficit, by trading goods, and the main part which has to compensate that is the foreign remittance, which is around 7.2 billion US dollars. And around 50% or 40% comes from the Middle East. So that is around 3.5 billion or something like that. And if you consider our trade deficit with India itself annually is around 3.5 billion US dollars. So it is equal to what these mothers are sending to Sri Lanka. So,
and it also has social issues.
Of course,
when these mothers are going abroad.
Yes.
And the children are without one parent, and several issues.
Yes.
What would you say are the major reasons for the IT professionals to oppose ETCA?
Yes, we have 3 reasons. I think first reason I mentioned already. So I mean that will kill the industry if it considers the IT industry. And the same thing happened what the State Minister Iran Wickramaratne proposed have taken place. Because
is this a sort of a backdoor method? Because by suggesting that the sole responsibility should be with the control of immigration, and that this is an immigration matter, are they trying to bring this open the gates through the back door?
Of course, that is their plan. Because I mean, any person with common sense understands this is not a right thing to do. Because if you're giving the sole authority to one person who has no knowledge on the subject, so how can you justify this? What is the rationale behind this?
In any case, visas like this, work permits like this, generally have to be accompanied by some sort of line ministry, line department recommendation.
Yes.
So if you remove that check and balance, then the system is open to sort of abuse.
Of course, actually this is more or less a policy change. So we have to understand that. So their policy is to open the gates for foreigners, and this is not for the well-being of our country. I don't think these people are working for this country. So that's the problem. And if you open gates like this, so several people, I mean, if you consider even the security aspect, so that will be also in danger if you just give permission like that to enter into country. So if you consider the entire framework of how the government and these economists act right now is wrong, because instead of thinking how to provide jobs in Sri Lanka to foreigners, they should think the other way around, how to find jobs to our professionals in other countries. But they are not doing that. If you consider these people, I mean, Minister Ranil Wickramaratne, he was in the joint EDCA, at that time it was CIPA in 2003, EDCA Joint Committee, and also Arjun Mahendran, and he was there, and Professor Rohan Samarajiva, and Dr. late Dr. Saman Kalegam, and this set of people, and they were initiating this discussion. I mean, in that time, Minister Ranil Wickramaratne was participating as the CEO NDB, representing the private sector, and in 2010 he became a nationalist MP from the United National Party. So, I mean, if you try to match these points, so it's very suspicious, their behavior, and we have very big concerns on this.
And is your suspicion because you find that even in other aspects of government and governance, that this sort of government has not really delivered, and there's growing public concern about their actions and about the levels of corruption and the lies that are being told to the people? Do you all base your fears and your suspicions on that track record?
Of course, that happens naturally, isn't it? Because the main feature is the irresponsibility. So nobody is responsible for anything. So that is the feature. I mean, they do everything, but we can't find who's responsible at the end of the day. So nobody is there to catch, or I mean,
to hold responsibility.
To hold responsibility. So that has been a feature. I mean, they say simply we don't know, I can't remember. So those are the simple terms that they use.
Yes, they can't remember, they don't know. And so on.
But who's going to penalize? So poor people of this country. That's the problem.
Yes, so, who is going to penalize?
So I mean, if you consider these kinds of acts, so if you destroy a sector which is growing, so what would happen? So the service industry, the earning from our service industry will be reduced. So this will have a very bad impact on of our balance of payment account. So then the impact comes to the financial account. So you have to find those money somehow. So then we have to sell our resources outside. So those resources, like ports or airports or whatever, those have the ability to earn money annually. So in order to fill the deficit in 1 year, you have to sell an asset. So that will be a continuous problem. So then how, in the next year, what are they going to sell? So that's the problem. So therefore, we have to be, as citizens, we have to take some actions now. I mean, if we are just blind and if we are just watching what is happening, we in the future we will feel that we did a mistake by not speaking out. I mean, that has been a problem among professionals also. Some professionals are there to come and speak, even though they see the truth. So our organization is not such. So if we see something wrong, so we come out and speak. So I think that is the need of the hour.
Do you feel that why do you think that the government is saying things like, why do you think that Mr. Wickramaratne is saying that, you know, let's bring in more people? He doesn't say that, but that's the effect. So in effect they're saying, let's open the gates, let anyone come in. Why do you think that they are saying this? What's the reason? Is there some deal in this, or what? It's not like the bond, you know. With the bond you can say this was done, the money was made, the EPF lost or didn't make as much, and so on. So in this particular instance, why do you think the ministers are making such what appear to be irresponsible statements?
I think the best person to ask this question is them, not me. But
Yeah.
what I can
But
say
what is the impression it's created in your mind?
Yeah.
When you see these decisions, surely you must be thinking, well, why are they saying this?
yes, okay, that's what I said. So if you consider they were in the joint committee,
Yeah.
joint committee,
Yeah.
and then representing private sector, then they became nationalist ministers, and then now suggesting to do this in a other way around. So if you consider this EDCA agreement,
Yeah.
there is a big opposition,
Yeah.
and people are opposing the agreement.
So, do you feel that the government has had enough discussions with the stakeholders?
No, the stakeholder participation is minimal. So, I mean, for chambers, some chambers, there are many importers.
Right.
So, actually, those chambers are not the real stakeholders when you are importing goods. I mean, they are stakeholders.
Yeah.
But if you just import a finished good and sell in this country, then that is not what. That should not be the main focus of the government.
Mm-hmm.
So you have chambers where the office bearers are main importers. Mm-hmm. So then if you want to discuss as a government, so you go and discuss with that particular chamber, and then you say, yes, we got the stakeholder participation. That is not what should happen. Mm-hmm. So when you consider stakeholder, it's not only the chambers like that. So there are local entrepreneurs, and also there are professionals and the civil society, and all are stakeholders. So that stakeholder consultation is a must in this kind of acts.
Now, Mr. Wickremesinghe, now in the IT and the BPO industry in Sri Lanka is less than 2% of GDP, is what a question being posed by a viewer. In India, it is around 7% of GDP. What is holding Sri Lanka's IT back?
I think this question is wrong. I don't know the numbers,
right?
But if you consider this our service industry, the second largest net revenue is earned from the IT industry next to tourism.
Right.
So we can't say it is held in back. So it is a growing industry. So
yes. But
basically,
what can be done more, I think, is what the viewer is asking. How can we get it going more? How can Sri Lanka's IT industry contribute more than the 2% of GDP?
Yeah, it was actually, that's what I was mentioning, it was growing. So so we have to, we should first not disturb that growing. So that's the first thing. So if something is growing, just let it grow. And you have to make the investor confidence in this country. If you are trying to bring in reforms each and every day, then the other day another reform, then investor confidence gone.
What you're saying is you need consistency.
Consistency, exactly. And also try to improve the ease of doing business. Yeah. Some office spaces around the cities. Yeah. So those are the simple things that we should do. And the main focus should be in the consistency,
right?
Because he should be able to forecast when you are investing. So if you are feeling kind of a uncertainty before you put your money, then you look for other options, you look for other countries.
Yeah.
So that is the problem right now.
Yeah. So what would EDCA's impact be overall on the economy in Sri Lanka, in your view then?
Yes, I'll say it in a simple example.
Yeah.
If you consider the famous agreement, North American Free Trade Agreement and Central American Free Trade Agreements, so there are several trends. So those agreements were between America and Mexico, and then the CAFTA is on the America and several other countries like El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, those countries. So those are poor countries, and America is a rich country. So those countries have several features. So America has excess capital, and the other poor countries have low cost production. And so, I mean, there's a big arguments, and both sides are not satisfied. But still, there are some benefits to both sides. So one of the trends are some of the factories in US removed and relocated in those poor countries to take the advantage of low cost operation, and the exports from the poor countries increase to the US because of their low-cost production due to this agreement, and the people in the poor countries got some jobs in US market. So those are the trends, and the rationale behind, or the reason behind those trends, America was benefit from the excess capital, and those poor countries will benefit from their low-cost production or low-cost labor. But if you consider India and Sri Lanka, what is the situation? Who has the excess capital? India. Who has the low-cost production, low-cost labor? India. So this is if Sri Lanka wants to go for a comprehensive economic agreement, India is the worst country to do so. I mean, there are other options.
We're talking about the IT industry.
No, in overall sense.
Right.
I mean, if we want to go for a comprehensive agreement, so we have to have some benefits. So, and also if we take what are the comparative advantage of Sri Lanka, so we have comparative advantage in tea and apparel. So can we export tea to India? No, because they also have a comparative advantage in tea and apparel.
Right.
So we have, this is because this is not a natural marriage. So that's why so many problems are arising from the current free trade agreement with India. Because I mean, if we want to have free trade agreements, there are some other countries, so we can find win-win situations. But with India, so all the advantages are with India, and being a huge country, so we are at a tremendous risk. I would say one example, India provide 15 lakhs engineers annually, 15 lakhs engineers annually, and out of that, when they are at age 30, 1/3 is unemployed. So that means every year you get 5 lakh engineers unemployed in India, and Sri Lanka produces just 1,500 engineers annually. Okay, let's say we have an agreement.
Because that's all the capacity.
Yes, I mean, let's say we have an agreement, comprehensive agreement in India. So the next question is, why should we just develop 1,500 engineers Sri Lanka? So you can bring them from India. So the motivation for producing local engineers will be lost in few years. So the next step would be to just removing that engineering sector in the education system, because there is no motivation to provide Sri Lankan engineers, because there are plenty in India. So that is because the size to sizes.
But
of the countries.
But our home industry back home here, we will need some specialist knowledge as well. To help us to learn and to develop.
Yes. So
I suppose you all have no objection to that.
Yes, of course. Even today, when there is a special requirement like that, it is possible to bring down. If there are some inefficiencies, those has to be streamlined and regulated. So that's what should happen. So you should not remove the necessary step of a process to increase the efficiency.
Yes.
So you can have IT-based solutions, and you can improve your processes. You can find some robust solution. I mean, that is the responsibility of the policymakers or politicians or whoever. I mean, that is. I mean, it is not a big science. So there's a common sense. So you just don't remove the steps. Try to increase the efficiency of communicating. If you apply a database solution, so this will increase more than, I mean, if you spend let's say 1 month, so if you apply a database solution, then the authorization is given to several people. So and the other one is notified when that authorization is done, and every time you go and log into, then you can see what are the things that you have to be done. So you can have such kind of a robust system that will increase the efficiency very quickly, and it is not a big thing. And Mr. Ranveer Wickramaratne has been a former chairman of ICTA, and he would have done that while he was in ICTA.
And that's the point. You see, people will point and say that Mr. Wickramaratne was ICTA before.
Yeah.
And so he must know a thing or two, and that's why he's saying what he said. And therefore, you may find that Mr. Wickramaratne is enjoying a lot of support out there for his idea. What do you say about that?
No, I think
is he wrong?
Yes, he's wrong. I mean, you don't have to have a very big evidence to say that he's wrong, because if you just read his proposal, you feel that you can't accept that. Because another thing is that if we consider their approach, it's not benefited for the country.
Yeah.
Because what they should do is they should try to promote our professionals going out. Not, because if, let's say, you are negotiating with India, then Indians wants to send their employees to Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Then we should try to find some jobs in India. I mean, it's another matter whether our people like to go to India or not. But that should be the approach at least. So if we are also thinking that we should provide our jobs to India, so that is not a negotiation.
Somebody is asking us, out of the 1,500 engineers that are produced annually, do you know how many actually leave the country?
No, I don't have exact numbers.
Yeah.
But when it comes to engineers, I think very few people are going abroad. Some goes to Singapore for work permit sometimes, and they are coming back. I think very few amount is going out of the country or migrated. I think this is not a big issue. I don't believe that brain drain is a big issue. So big issue is sending our mothers to earn foreign exchange.
Yeah.
So if you compare those two problems, the brain drain issue and sending our mothers to earn foreign
So why can't we have a robust IT industry full of highly trained, qualified, experienced IT so professionals, and then why can't we export that professionalism around the world?
Yeah, we have that robust IT professionals in Sri Lanka. That's why people are investing in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And if
but you need, I think what I'm asking you is whether what is being done to grow that to a greater level, so that then the foreign remittances we won't have to be so dependent on, as you say, the mothers of this country going out to work.
Yes, actually, if you see the stats, the number of graduates that we produce each year has been increasing.
Right.
So I'll just show the graph. So this is how it has been increasing.
Right.
Increasing annually.
Yes.
And if you look at 2014, we have produced around 7,000 IT graduates.
Right.
And the entire demand was around 6,000.
So you fulfill that.
Yes.
Right.
So and this is the source is National ICT Workforce Survey 2013.
Right.
So so that is the situation. So we are producing graduates enough.
Yeah.
And the demand and supply is well balanced. But there are some sectors where we producing some overproduction in graduates. And there are some sectors where we have some sort of shortages. So what we should do is we need to balance out this.
Right.
So we should further improve the communication between the industry and the academia to balance out this gap.
Okay.
So I mean, we don't have a huge problem in the IT industry as such that the entire government is working for.
Right.
That's the problem. If you have a huge problem that we don't have enough graduates to cope up the demand, so then we can say this is right. But we don't have such a problem here.
Right.
And who are asking for? What are the companies who are requesting this? The only company I know is Professor Rohan Samarajiv's company.
Yeah.
There may be some other companies, but that is the only thing I have heard in publicly. So we need this, we need it. But he started that company in 2014, and after being a member of the SEPA Joint Committee.
So he
that
knows.
is in 2004, I guess. But before that, he was in SEPA Joint Committee.
Right. Now, There are many questions, and I'm sorry that we've run out of time and we can't take all the questions. And there's one here, there's a bit of a joke, saying that sending mothers abroad may be another problem, which we'll have to discuss in another forum. But Lasanta Vikramasinghe, thank you very much for being on our program this morning, and good luck with keeping and holding the government in check.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen, from Newsline on October the 25th, 2017. Take care. God bless.
Thanks.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.